Well, it's always been a blessing to be with you all, and definitely a blessing that we're here tonight. And like I said before, my name is Malachi Burden, and I'm your friend. And before I begin, I'd like to give honor and thanks where honor is due. And when I reflect where I've been at for the last 5 years, and also, if you don't know, this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so this month, I've actually celebrated 5 years of sobriety. And so when I reflect on where I was 5 years ago to where I am currently standing today, there's a quote that comes to mind from the late, great Kobe Bryant. And he says, "God is great, and it doesn't get any simpler than that." God is great, and it doesn't get any simpler than that. I also want to thank Pastor Joe and Victoria Osteen for overseeing this church and supporting this ministry, and Pastor John for all that you do, for being a pioneer and your leadership, and also entrusting me with the responsibility and servitude that I have. Thank you to the Freedom Leadership Team for all that you do and your support of me. And thank you to all the behind-the-scenes crew for all that you do. And even when it seems like you're not appreciated and your work goes unseen, thank you. And for all my friends and family that are here tonight or watching online, thank you, and I love you. Thank you for supporting me. And the rest of you in attendance and tuning in online, thank you for being with me. And like I said, it's a blessing that you're here. And last but not least, this person doesn't know I was going to do this, but we have a special guest tonight. And even though she's seen me on stage live, this will be their first time hearing me preach. And so to the person who's raised me and supported me my entire life and has shown me unconditional love and has always been there for me even when I didn't need them to be and never asked, please give a round of applause for my mother. So, Mom, thank you, and I love you. So, I'd like to lay the foundation for tonight's message with a short story. A water bear had two large pots, both hung on each ends of a pole, and which he carried across his back. One of the pots had a crack in it, and the other pot was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water. At the end of a large walk from the stream to the house, the cracked pot always arrived half full. The poor cracked pot was ashamed of itself, of its own imperfection, and was miserable that it was only able to accomplish only half of what it was made to do. One day, after 2 years, it perceived it as work as a bitter failure, and it spoke to the water bear by the stream one day. "I'm ashamed of myself." Let's just stay right there for a second. How many of us feel ashamed of the life that we're living currently? Or, even deeper question, how many of us are ashamed of a life that we used to live, but we still feel trapped or bound by it or imprisoned by it? You know, the shame of that addiction, that shame of that divorce, the shame of you hurting someone else, you know, the shame of that felony, the shame of that affair, or the shame of you being fired from your job, or even the shame of you being abused by someone else. I'm ashamed of myself, and I want to apologize to you for I've only been able to deliver half of my load because this crack in my side causes water to leak out all the way back to your house. Because of my flaws, you have to do all this work, and you only get full value, and you don't get the full value from your efforts. The bear said to the pot, "Did you notice that there's only flowers on your side of the path, but not on the other pot side? That's because I've always known about your flaw, and I planted flower seeds on your side of the path. And every day while we walk back, you watered them. For 2 years, I've been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate my table. With you being just the way you are, with you being just the way you are, with you being just the way you are, there would not be this beauty to grace this house." If you're taking notes tonight, I want to talk to you about living cause driven with the subtitle, The Cracked Pot. When we dive deeper into the story, what do we find? I believe that we find purpose. We must understand that we were created on purpose, for a purpose, and that you had a purpose before anyone in this world had an opinion about you. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, God knew you. And before you were born, you were set apart and anointed for a purpose. Like the cracked pot, no matter what life throws at you, no matter how many times you have fallen, have been scarred, bruised, or battered, no matter how many cracks that you have, No one or no thing can ruin the purpose on your life. Despite all the cracked pots, or despite all the cracks in the pot was fulfilling its own unique purpose unknowingly, but knowingly in the hands of the water bearer. Or in other words, God knowingly uses our flaws to make his power perfect through our weaknesses. Our weaknesses are not barriers, but opportunities for God's grace to manifest in our life. Remember this: if the seed has potential, the dirt always has a purpose. If the seed you're planting in this world had potential, it doesn't matter what the type of dirt the world throws at you, whether it be rejection, condemnation, lies, insults, betrayal, abuse. All that dirt thrown at you only serves as nutrients for your seeds to grow. I've heard our own Pastor Glenn speak this phrase: broken crayons still color. Broken crayons still color. You may be broken right now, and you may be in a point in your life where you don't feel that happy or joyful, but no matter what, you can still light up the world, you can still water the world, and you can still color the world right where you're at just by simply existing. Just like the pot, you're growing flowers and you're watering flowers all around you just by being you. I want to encourage all of you that you're part of God's plan. And if you're a part of it, that means you're purposed for it. And if you're purposed for it, that means God will bring your purpose to fruition. In the basic instructions before leaving earth, or in short, the Bible, there's a man named Paul who had several cracks in his own right. And God still used him despite all his cracks to write nearly half of the New Testament that we read today all around the world. In Romans 8, chapter 28, or Romans 8, verse 28, Paul says that, and we know that in all things, everyone say all things. We know that all things, not some things, not one or two things, not only the bad things or the good things, but all things. Everything in addiction, Malachi? Yeah. Even in divorce? Yes. Even the abuse? Absolutely. Even the arrest? Yep. Even the bad doctor's report with only a couple months to live? Yes. When the world sees you broken, it sees broken pieces. But when God sees you broken, he sees a masterpiece because you come from the master himself. Now, the second thing we learn from this story is impacts. Another person who had cracks in their pot is by the name of Peter. Peter says that each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others. You are called to serve others with your gifts. The crackpot's gift was to carry water regardless of how the pot saw itself or how the world saw it. But the pot brought beauty to its surrounding, impacting everyone who walked down the path. It is crucial for you to identify your unique gifts and find ways to beautify the world and to embrace your imperfections for a greater cause. We don't have to be perfect in this world to make an impact, for small things done with great love can change the world. For you don't describe an elephant, you describe an elephant by its size, but a mosquito by its impact. Even the smallest things can have a massive impact. For the man who wants to move a mountain only begins by moving small stones. But just like the size of a mosquito, our impact will become as small as our controlling limits or as great as our dominant aspirations. The choice is yours. Now I want to back up a little bit and living cause driven. Well, what does that mean? If we break up this phrase into the three words and look up the definitions with the help of Merriam-Webster, we see that living means exhibiting the life or motion of, the condition of being alive, cause, a reason for an action or condition, something that brings about an effect or result to compel by command, authority, or force. And driven, determined to succeed, highly energetic or motivated, propelled or motivated by something. Putting these definitions together, this is what I came up with. Living cause driven describes someone who is propelled by a sense of purpose, who demonstrates determination in the pursuit of a specific goal or mission to bring about meaningful results. It denotes being engaged and motivated by a significant cause, influencing actions and conditions with energy and intent. From this, we ask ourselves 3 questions. What or who are you living for? 2, what causes motivate you? And 3, what is the purpose that drives you? There should be something that we should be involved in that's bigger than ourselves. There's a saying that a person wrapped only in himself is a small package. Unfortunately, if you're only focused on yourself, you won't live up to your fullest potential. You were all created to help lift, to mentor, to motivate, to coach, to guide, to fight, to volunteer, to build, to fund, to inspire, or a combination of these things, or even things I did not mention. But most importantly, we must see the bigger picture and how we fit into that frame. Like the crackpot, sometimes you need to take a step back and see the potential there is around us to make a difference. Like the crackpot, you may not be where you be in life, where you want to be in life, but there is opportunity all around you to beautify the world. Now, each of us have different journeys. Some of you, your journey may be to become a CEO or to start a business and rid the curse of poverty on your family. Some of you, your purpose is to have a healthy marriage and rid the curse of divorce in your family. Some of you, your purpose is to go to college or to trade school and rid the curse of drug dealing and imprisonment in your family. We all have different purposes. But we all have an assignment, and it's not just about us. Somebody needs what we have to offer, and somebody's waiting on you to fulfill your purpose. When I was graduating from high school, my senior year, we were given a choice to have high school quotes for our yearbook. A lot of my friends chose music lyrics or movie quotes. I remember in my class, we all loved Will Ferrell, so we were looking up different Will Ferrell quotes to choose from, and I almost chose one from the movie Talladega Nights. Was somewhat inappropriate, but I had to change the heart. I wanted a quote that would not only motivate me, but would motivate all the underclassmen that would see this quote. And the quote that I chose was, if you have a why, you can bear almost any how. If you have a why to live, you can overcome anything. And you have to have a why in order to live cause-driven. When the why is big enough, the facts that you're facing don't count. What does this mean? In other words, when you have a cause, you'll believe in something that you can accomplish that seems impossible or even seems insurmountable. We see this in the story of Nehemiah in the Bible. If you're not familiar with the story, Nehemiah was a cupbearer to the king who had conquered the region. And there is a city nearby that he found out, the word of mouth, that all the city walls were destroyed and that the city was left defenseless. And this moved him, this pushed his heart to go fix the city. And so what he did was, as the cupbearer, he asked the king not only to be, in modern translation, the project manager, but also to finance the entire project, which the king agreed to both. Other obstacle is that when he got to the city, he realized that he had a lack of people who were talented in terms of laborers. You only had a very few handful of people that actually were skilled laborers. The rest of the people, even he quotes this in his memoir, that were perfume makers, and even enlisted women, which at that time had no education or experienced in labor. However, he enlisted the entire city to rebuild this wall. Not only that, he faced enemy opposition, threats, and ridicule and sabotage. But despite all those facts, he accomplished in rebuilding the entire city walls in only 52 days. When the why is big enough, the facts that you're facing don't count. Each and every one of us has a why. Each and every one of us has a purpose, and each and every one of us were created on purpose. If you don't believe me, reflect on this. Scientific studies say that we have a genetic code, our DNA, that makes us. And if we were to impact any one of yours DNA, everything that makes you, if we were to unpack that and stretch it out as far as we can stretch it out, that would wrap around the globe 1.5 million times, cover the distance between the Earth and the Sun almost 400 times, and would cover the diameter of the solar system twice. You were purposely made with immense detail and immense value, and your purpose has immense worth and immense potential. There's a person in the Bible who's a primary character. And if you don't know, his name is Jesus. And he was foreshadowed in the Old Testament, and we see him alive in the New Testament. Jesus himself measured greatness in the terms of service. And in the Bible, he's given a story or a parable of three servants who were given monetary currency from their master to invest this currency. The master came back after a couple weeks, and he saw that two of the servants had multiplied their currency, where one of the servants did nothing and wanted to be conservative. The one servant who did nothing was ridiculed, but the two servants who worked were praised with this statement, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." Jesus also said that he chose you, and he appointed you, that you may go forth and bear fruit, fruit that will last. You were chosen, you were appointed, and you were gifted for a cause. What you are is God's gift to you, but what you do with your life is your gift back to God. But just like the pot, there are times we feel like our past just kind of disqualifies us, and our current troubles disqualify us from helping others. Well, let me encourage you with this. Paul, as I said before in the Bible, wrote a letter to others in the Bible dealing with a similar situation. And he says this, God helps us in all our troubles so that we are able to help others who have all kinds of troubles. Using the same help that we ourselves have received from God, for when ourselves are comforted, we will certainly comfort you. Then you can patiently endure the same things that we suffer. We are confident that as you share in our sufferings, you will also share in the same comfort God gives us. Our cracks, our bruises, our scars, allow us to speak to, relate to, and minister to other people who are suffering the same or different troubles as us. With the learned wisdom, knowledge, and understanding from our experiences and troubles, we can help others overcome theirs. And together, we can bring about freedom to our families, to our communities, and to the world. Remember, snowflakes are frail, but together, they could shut down a whole city. This reminds me of the story of a football player by the name of Tim Tebow. And while he was in college, he was a quarterback at a school in Florida. And one day, he started to put Philippians 4:13 under his eye. And one day, he wore that for every week, he wore that scripture under his eye. And the last week of the season, at the national championship, he decided to change the scripture to John 3:16. After the game, which they won, his PR manager had walked up to him and said, "Tim, do you know what just happened?" He said, "Yeah, we won the game." He said, "No, Tim, do you know what just happened?" He said, "No." He said, 90 million people Googled John 3:16. But there's more. 3 years later, on the exact same date, 3 years later, Tim Tebow was in the NFL and won a playoff game, the Broncos versus the Steelers. He won in overtime. And this time he had nothing on his eyes, no scriptures, but he won in overtime. After the game, his PR manager walked up to him and said, "Tim, do you know what just happened?" He said, "Yes. We just won in overtime as an underdog. We're about to go play the Patriots." He said, "No. Tim, do you know what just happened?" He said, "No, tell me." He said, 90 million people Googled John 3:16. What I'm trying to tell you is that due to his cause-driven life, he was able to impact 90 million people without him even doing anything because of what his cause was. Your mission gives you purpose and answers the question why. Your vision gives you a picture and answers the question what. And your strategy gives you a plan and answers the question how. My hope and prayer is for all of us to find the strength to embrace our imperfections and clarity in our purpose and a heart to willing to serve others and the ability to trust in God's greater plan in us to bring about beauty and grace into the world. As I close, I'm going to leave you all with this poem called The Helping Tree. I may not see all the seeds I scatter, for I know where I stand. I stretch to make the world a better place and lend a helping hand. I hope the dreamers dream and the songbirds to sing. From my branches they leap and learn to first trust their wing. When they fall, I'm here. They speak and I care. And I tell them, go into the world and bright talents share. My smile reminds them that they've come a long way, and it's an encouraging thing to hear. At the end of a rough day, I know in time their fruits will come. I'm just glad that through the journey, I can help out some. I'm thankful for those years ago planted me and helped me become a helping tree. Remember, friends, regardless of the life that you lived, regardless of the life that you currently live, or the troubles you may face in the future, your life was blessed with a finite number of pages, but an infinite number of chapters. You too can live a cause-driven life. Thank you for allowing me to share with you all tonight.